I'm Josh, a senior manager at a global consultancy and technology organization, and a career coach. I've progressed from a graduate to a senior manager with a six-figure salary within 7 years, and during this time, I've learned that creating meaningful and challenging goals is one of the key ways you can improve your work performance and career progression. In this video, I'll take you through each of the steps to ensure 2025 is the year you define and achieve transformative career goals, whether you're a student, a graduate, or an experienced professional. Now, if you found this video, hopefully that means you already appreciate the value in really powerful goal setting. But just to be crystal clear on why it's such an important skill to have and to use, the reason you should really be investing your time in effective goal setting is because it keeps you focused and motivated to continuously push yourself first of all, but also it gives you clarity on what your priorities are ultimately and enables you to say no to things that aren't contributing to those goals. So you're laser focused. And this will ensure as a result that you exceed your expectations at your annual reviews and achieve that next promotion if that's what you're working towards. And by the way, if that isn't convincing enough, as a career coach, I've seen plenty of generic and vague goals, which ultimately provide you no path to follow. And what that means is at the end of the year, when you're reflecting on how the year's gone and what you've achieved, you don't really have a story to tell your manager. And that then really impacts the scores and the ratings you'll get. And I would argue your potential for promotion as well. So the first step in effective goal setting is actually thinking about the types of goals you're going to set yourself for the year. And what I mean by that is think about the categories you intend to set goals for, because this will help you ensure that you're not just focusing on one area of your persona as a professional, but actually giving you a breadth of knowledge and experience gained. So let me give you some examples of categories that I've previously used. First of all, business outcomes. So what are the key things you want to achieve in your role? Is it X number of signings within the year? Is it delivering X amount of revenue, for example? Next would be skills. So what skills do you want to develop for this year? But go further than that, what are the internal and external training courses you want to attend? What certifications do you want to achieve? Next up, community. So if you're a delivery lead or a project manager, for example, do you want to set up a new initiative within your delivery community to upskill others, educate others, and become more eminent yourself? Next up, habits. So what new habits do you want to form? And finally, although this is a career focused video, actually, what are your personal goals? What do you want to achieve outside of work that actually helps you map all that alongside your career goals as well? Now, depending on your overall intentions and priorities for the year, you may want to focus more heavily on one or two categories, for example. That's also fine, but it's just important to give yourself a breadth of coverage, I would suggest. So again, when you come to your annual reflections or your promotion panels, that you can suggest that you've improved across the board. And my advice for these categories, when you're thinking about them yourself, is also consider what are your organization's plans or strategies for the upcoming year, and actually ensure that your goals relate to them or align to them. Because this then demonstrates that you're at the forefront of your organization's progression and contributing to exactly the areas that are most valuable to them. So I'm going to keep coming back to it and referring to annual reflections and promotion opportunities. But if you do that, if you align to those strategic goals and initiatives, then there's no way they can't give you high scores for that. And that's what people miss. They focus on their niche or their skill set, but they forget about the layer of the organization that actually will really benefit you. Once you've decided on those categories, actually what I would also encourage you to think about is the duration or the length of these goals. So I will give you my own prior experience. When I was a graduate and first trying to set myself career or professional goals, I set really large, audacious ones for the whole year. And what would end up happening is I would get towards the end of the year and shock horror, I would have made nearly no progress throughout the remainder of the year, right? Procrastinating, putting things off, waiting or needing a deadline. So it would only be November and December time I'd really revisit my goals and then rush towards the end of the year to try and achieve them. And in doing so, you actually, first of all, don't achieve such meaningful or impactful outcomes, but you also lose the benefit of progressing at a steady pace, throughout the year. So to avoid this, I'd encourage you to think about setting quarterly goals, for example. And by breaking those goals down into more manageable quarterly chunks, it makes them less overwhelming for yourself from a psychological perspective. It requires you to start working on them sooner, and you see the impact of the working towards those goals sooner as well. This next section is probably the most important one, and it's actually how you structure and define your goals to ensure that they're valuable, they're clear, and they're meaningful to you as well. And there's a really tried and tested formula to this that hopefully you will have heard of by now, but if you haven't, all of my coachees have many times, SMART goals. And what I mean by that is, if I break it down, each letter in SMART obviously stands for something. So first of all, specific. So the goal needs to be clear and unambiguous. Next, measurable. So you can actually track progress towards that goal and how you're performing against it. Achievable. Is it attainable ultimately and feasible to complete? Relevant. So it has to align with, as I mentioned earlier, broader objectives and priorities for yourself, but also the organization that you're working for. And lastly, time bound. So it has to have a clearly defined timeline within which you are going to achieve this. And this structure, if you follow this, ensures that both you and your manager know what you're working towards. You can hold yourself accountable to those goals, and it gives you the motivation you need to stay on track. So it's really important that you structure them and ensure they're well written to get the most value from them as goals. If we take stock then of what we've done so far, we've defined the categories or the types of goals we want to create. We have defined the duration of those goals. We've used the SMART formula or method to actually now define and create our goals. And it's one thing to set goals, great, but actually, how do you see them through and ensure you're going to achieve them? Well, to do that successfully, I suggest that you actually create an action plan as well with clear steps you're going to take towards achieving these goals. So treat it ultimately as a checklist with due dates, acknowledging dependencies if you need help from anyone, for example. And this could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, a Kanban board, or post-its on your wall that you just move as you're progressing. And the value of creating a plan and doing this is you're breaking your goals down again into even smaller chunks than quarterly chunks. You're breaking it down further. Again, so it makes it less overwhelming to get started. It visually highlights to you the progress that you're making sooner. And this really helps me, it gives me that dopamine hit and motivates you to continue because you can see really quickly the progress you're making. And if you need any other reason to have a plan, is that by writing this down, by looking at this, it makes it more real and it holds yourself accountable to them as well. Now that you've created your goal plan, the next step is clearly to track and measure progress against that plan and against those goals. So what I would suggest is spending 10 minutes, just blocking out 10 minutes a week in your calendar, or once a fortnight if you struggle with weekly, and check in on your goals. Just reflect on any progress you've made and capture any evidence of that progress as well. And you may be asking, why do you need to do that? Is that not overkill, reflecting and capturing evidence on a weekly basis? Now, for me, what I would recommend is the value in this is that it's demonstrating to yourself the effort and the method that you've applied in progressing. But actually, if you think bigger picture, you can use that evidence really powerfully in your storytelling at your annual review or your promotion panel again. If that wasn't enough, which by the way, that is really valuable, having that all to hand to tell that story, it's actually just helpful to remind yourself in future of what you've achieved. So if you come back at the end of the year and you're creating your annual reflection, it's very easy to forget what you did in January and February. And by having this tracker and capturing evidence, it makes that whole process so much easier as well. And you will thank yourself in future. This is your opportunity as well to reflect on if you're not progressing with your goals, if you're finding them challenging, if you're facing issues, why is that? What's not working that you're not able to progress? And what's the underlying cause of that? And then, more importantly, how do you address that? How can you mitigate that? So self-reflection and iterating on those goals as needed is a key behavior that I see where people really progress and excel within their careers. Being really self-aware and self-reflective will help you not just with goal setting, but actually across the breadth of your career. So a shorter video this week, but hopefully that message has come through really clearly that this approach will enable you to set and achieve meaningful transformative goals in 2025. And by the way, this is the approach that I've used, I continue to use, that has enabled me to progress in the way I have. And I do think it's a really valuable, powerful way of approaching this. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. As a reminder, on this channel, I'm talking all things career coaching, career support, and advice. And I've got a lot of videos planned, which hopefully will be beneficial to you all. If you need any further incentive, I'm also offering 3 subscribers a free 30-minute coaching session one-on-one with myself. That can cover anything. It may be helping you with goal setting, or it may be helping to support you with achieving those goals you've set. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.